I am Danny Wornsop.
Hey, and I'm Jeff George.
And we are Harlot. You are watching Artisan News.
The one and only artistry in the Artisan.
The legal side.
Yeah, everybody around us,
There were a lot of people trying to shut it down and try and make any opportunity to stop it being able to happen. And it took a lot of work and a fair amount of money and a lot of patience to get to this point.
It is the music business, and that's the tough thing. I know a lot of the fans and people just think that you can make music and put it out when you want, and it's just not that easy. There's a lot of red tape all over it, and especially us all coming from different labels and different bands and managers and lawyers and all that stuff. Once you put all that together, it makes it tough. But I think the most accomplished feeling is to finally have this to the fans and to the people that have been waiting 3.5 years to hear this record. That's what makes me most happy.
It also didn't help that we had a couple of incompetent people work on it for a little while. But as soon as they were gone, it was a relatively smooth process.
Yeah, we have an amazing lawyer, Eric German. He rules.
It was on the legal side, not the lawyers, but on the business front and the recording front. We're a couple of incompetent people.
Yeah, we're pretty strong-headed guys. I mean, if you ever get if you ever hang out with us, you find out that we have a pretty clear vision of what it is that we want and things like that. And sometimes that is tough for other people to kind of get in to that circle with us, or for us to work, together well. And that can sometimes happen with people that record the record or work on the record, and then, there's so many different aspects of it, from the labels to, managements and all that kind of stuff. So we finally figured now that we've kind of got the team complete, but it took some time to get there. And with everything else that was going on, it was not the easiest to get the record out. And, and now that it is there, feels pretty awesome.
What inspired Dancing on Nails?
Dancing on Nails, it's a really fun, energetic tune.
It's just a real fun.
It's a real fun.
Fragment Man.
That's my superhero name. I baffle the villain with a half sentence.
You thwart all your enemies with those half sentences. Harlot, the band, we all have a lot of different influences. Brian Weaver, our bass player, he comes from a very Motown background, so you hear that in his bass playing.
Girls fan.
Me, huge Spice Girls, fan. No, obviously, classic rock and roll. Bruno, our drummer, it comes from Rio, Brazil, so he kind of feels rhythms and things a little bit differently. And then Danny, straight from hell, so he feels things like, the way that happens. But when you put that in a melting pot, you kind of get what is, We Are Harlot. And I think Dancing on Nails, you hear that vibe. I always loved bands like Van Halen and Pantera and stuff like that, when you heard those personalities of those guys in those songs. And I think when you listen to our music, you can hear our personalities. I mean, Danny's really lacking on personality, as you know,
yeah.
So I've been trying to infuse some into him. But I think when you hear that song, you have like a Cheap Trick type of guitar line. You have a dancing bass line. You have drums. There's 2 snare drums in the song. There's a lot of different stuff in there going on that hopefully looks like it's translated over pretty well to the fans, that they enjoy it. So.
What song on the album underwent the greatest change from how it was originally conceived?
None of them particularly changed much, because we are all, as individuals, songwriters, and we've all produced work over the years. I think we were producing it and writing it as songwriters in the writing process. So once it was done, it was already produced and changed and edited. So by the time it was done, it was already a finished product.
Yeah, that was kind of the same thing with working in the studio with people. Obviously, Kato was great to work with, but if you look at the record, you'll see that it's produced by us as well. Because just over the years of having these songs, and fighting to get them heard, we obviously produced them ourselves and worked on them very hard and had a clear vision of how we wanted them to sound. Nothing really changed by the time we got in the studio, because we're pretty adamant once we get something, like, this is how it's going to go. But I think the last like I think 7 of the songs were from our original batch that we had written, and then what was the last song? Maybe "Love for the Night."
for the Night was
Yeah,
the
"Love for the Night," which is actually Danny's favorite song on the record. That was the last one we did. So maybe that one was the only one that really kind of changed because it was literally done in like the 11th and a half hour. So.
So I did want to touch on, obviously, the big news of you leaving Asking Alexandria. How did that go down? Was that something you had been planning for a while?
I mean, like I said in my press release on it, it was just time for us to part ways. We'd reached a point musically where we wanted different things, and I want nothing but the best for him and wish him all the best in the future, and I'll always follow it and support it. Yeah, I mean, it was just time.
Sometimes, bands can tackle it two ways. It's either fuck you, and they go their separate ways, or they know this is coming and they sort of groom somebody to come in. Did you help them out with their next transition?
I don't know who the new guy is. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure Ben will find someone and we'll get someone that can do a great job.
Was it a sense that, because I know the same thing with Matt Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold said he's not going to do any more screaming. So was it the same thing for you?
It was literally just it outrun its course and it just wasn't something that was working anymore. I mean that's a tough one to answer because they're both very different. It's completely different music, completely different music, and completely different people. It's I mean, yeah, there's really nothing you can compare just because it's like comparing apples to oranges.
Even in the songwriting, the way the songs come
Yeah.
together, it's apples.
Yeah.
I think with us, one of the good things that we kind of have, which is fairly unheard of in a band, I mean, I've played in tons of bands, as has everybody in the group. We've been together for 4 years now, and we've lived together for 4 years. So when you live together, you party. We tend to have a drink or two here and there. You party together, and you play in a band together. There's all those reasons to really dislike each other, and we don't. We're all the best of friends. We hang out nonstop. We live together, and that makes for a great working environment. You know what I mean? So just coming from this side of things, for me, I've never been happier in a band. There's nothing better than being able to walk on stage and play with your best friends and play music that you really enjoy doing. So I know that demographic of us is something that's really, kind of unique. Hopefully it stays. We'll see.
Talk about how the pieces of the band came together. Tell us the story.
You were having that dance class.
Yeah, I was learning to boogie.
Yeah. And I happened to walk by the window and I
Yeah.
was like, damn, that guy can really shake his tush. So I was like creepily peering in the window. And Brian, I think at that time Brian was
He was a crack smoker.
yeah, he was on the side of the
was in the
street smoking
alleyway.
crack, kind of watching me. And then all of a sudden, Bruno, who was a rickshaw driver, he's got 6 people on the rickshaw. He comes
Yeah.
cruising by and sees us kind of like this weird 3-piece going on. And he's like, man, that looks kind of cool. So he just drops the rickshaw and he comes over and he goes, hey, what you guys up to? You guys like music?
What are you doing?
You ever been to Brazil? And then he started like kind of sitting on the curb, kicking mud with his feet, like kind of half swimming but sitting there. And then we're like, "This is it."
All those people on the rickshaw, they're like, no, they're just scarecrows. And he didn't even write on real people.
Yeah. So we got Brian off the crack. All joined the dance class, which was insane.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, we're just boogieing our way through life. No, in all honesty,
I mean, me and Bruno were kind of jamming some stuff. His luxury apartment in Koreatown.
Yep. Amazing.
Anyone that's been to Koreatown know that is sarcasm.
Spacious 150 feet.
And then me and Jeff met at a New Year's Eve party, partaking in very legal things.
Mm-hmm. Next morning, sent
Yeah.
over a couple tracks, and
Yeah, and then
2 days later, we moved in together. It was
Yeah.
really that organic, and like.
started drinking and writing 100 songs.
Yeah, we did like 100
8
songs
months.
in that first 8 months, which is amazing, because we were partying our dicks off.
We were messed up.
And that was, you know, again, part of what I had touched on earlier was it's amazing that we were able to accomplish that. Now, of course, people could say, well, man, 95 of those are terrible songs, but
those people are wrong.
yeah, they're really wrong. It's basically the best things they've ever heard in their lives. No, but they were quality songs. I mean, I've loved music since I was 3 years old, you know, and I'm only 20 now. So it's like, come on. So anyways, yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. And then we, you know, it was me, Danny, and Bruno, and then we needed to you know, eventually find a bass player. So we ended up putting out a couple
Ended up settling for Brian.
yeah, and like we had all these, you know, real bass players call, but they didn't like us, so we just had to settle on.
So wrong it's right.
Yeah, so wrong it's right. No, we knew Brian I knew him from Silvertide. Was a great band, one of my favorite bands. And when his name showed up on the list, I was like, fucking hell, man, you know? I wonder if it's him. And I called him. I was like, dude, I know you live in Philly, but we got this great band. Would love you to be a part of it. He's like, I just moved to L.A. 2 weeks ago. I'm sleeping on my friend's couch.
It was a sign.
Come on over. And then we got him drunk for like a week straight and killed him. And
yep.
and it was in.
He was sleeping on his friend's couch. Moved over to
Our couch.
yeah. Just the amount of times what I'm saying.
That dude can sleep on couches like nobody's business.
You've never seen a couch sleeper like Brian.
Yeah, but it was, you know, one of the things that's kind of cool with us is, you know, obviously Danny's from England, Bruno's from Brazil, you know, Brian, Philly, and me in Detroit. So we're really from all over the world, and for it to all work out to where we all kind of came together to be in a band is you know, pretty awesome. So a lot of times everybody's from like the same town, the same city, and things. So it's kind of a cool thing.
Let me ask you this. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall when you guys first started talking. What were you talking about that kind of cemented that bond that you're like, oh my God, this guy's awesome?
I mean, we've got to leave a lot of it out for legal reasons, but predominantly just music. We just we ended up just singing a bunch of like Journey and Aerosmith together. And
that was the first night, actually. When we the very first night was New Year's, and we all went around a friend's table. There's like 30 of us all sitting around singing "Don't Stop Believin'" at the table, right? And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to sing this harmony of it, and then he'd switch harmonies, and then I'd switch to the other one. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing, you know? And are we allowed to swear on this? Okay. Okay. So that was kind of, you know, unique. But, you know, when we first got together, it was obviously party, go to the bar. This guy, you know, shaves your ears off you.
yes.
Yeah, shaves my ears all the time. They're really hairy. But, you know, to be able to have that, you know, to go and party like that and to also write the music and how organic it was, that was kind of like when we knew that we wanted to play music together, you know, and that we wanted to write songs together. And it was really that organic, you know. And then, of course, it got a real thing, and then that's when everything else comes around, and it's like, okay, we either want this or we don't want it, or we want this or we don't want it, you know.
Or we want this or we don't want it.
Or we want this or we don't want it.
So
But then there's the possibility.
Well, you don't want us to just keep saying that?
Don't want it.
Because some people wanted it, some people didn't. So you either want this or you don't want
I
this.
know. I personally, I had to sit and decide, like, do I want this or do I not want this?
And then I sat there and I was like, I want this. But then, you know, I was like, do I not? No, I did. I wanted it.
So here we are. You guys have this, you know, connection on a, you know, sort of a mental level, but you don't really know if it's going to work until you hit the studio, you start playing. So do you
On a
remember that
physical
first,
level.
Yeah. So do you
Our
remember
first time.
Yeah,
Do you remember our first time?
Herbert.
You guys went and got a room.
No, we were just recording in the home studio. So it's, I mean,
Yeah.
from the start, we weren't just like kind of jamming in a room with all our, like, in a kind of band practice
I think
environment. It was from day one in the studio. So it was.
There was a couple of funny things that had happened in like a week's time, because all of this was like Danny had said, we had kind of done it all in the home studio. But then we got asked to go and do a Camp Freddy performance with Slash and Moby and a bunch of other people. And me and Danny looked at each other and were like, this is the first time we're ever actually going to play music together. And we went out and pretty much took over, and we're like, well, this works. So then, you know, next we find out we're playing Rock on the Range, right? And we're like, well, I guess we should probably rehearse for this. We had 3 rehearsals. And that was the first time all 4 of us had been in a room, and we're like, do we even know these songs? Because, you know, you kind of record them in, and like, do we know these songs? And as soon as we got pretty drunk before it. For the first
Yeah, we
one.
did.
And then Mind Erasers, and then we went in there, and it was just on fire, you know? And then we got to Rock on the Range, and didn't know how it was going to go over with the fans and everything like that.
Didn't know where our equipment was.
Yeah, and our equipment got lost. Splendor broke down. The whole thing happened. But as soon as if you ever watch on the Facebook, there's a clip of us taking the stage, and the crowd just goes crazy as soon as we walk out, and we're like, okay, well, now we're all on stage together. And then as soon as we hit, it was on. I mean, I never felt more comfortable playing, with dudes on a stage. Like, it was, I just knew where, if you watch that, you'll see. I mean, plus I had this awesome 7-foot cord because, like, my wireless had broken. But we all knew where everybody was at. And it was very instinctive and very natural.
Now, here's the thing. Obviously, people who are, Asking Alexandria fans, want to give this band a shot. So, I mean, do you care? Do you want the fans to make the jump, or how do you feel?
Well, of course, I'd like everyone in the world to be a fan.
And many have.
It would be bad business for me to. No, do not
You're
like
not
this
allowed.
band.
No, but do you think that?
No, abandon me. I am dead to you.
Say it like you mean it.
But do you think that they'll be open enough to make that jump?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so.
It's pretty wild. I mean,
I like to think I've groomed a pretty good group of kids. They're good kids.
It was amazing seeing it kind of happen on like Twitter and on the socials and stuff because one text tweet would be "F you, Danny," you broke my heart, and then like, hey, I finally gave Harlot a chance, and man, you guys were really good. It's like we could have probably did without the first tweet, but yeah, it's music. Whether it's hip hop, R&B, rap, metal, death metal, Norwegian, Swedish rock, whatever, it's all music. You can like it or not like it, but give it a shot. You know what I mean? I mean, people think that you have a song like Dancing on Nails that you don't like metal. Well, Dimebag from Pantera was one of my dearest friends, and I grew up listening to Slayer and heavy, heavy metal. My mom thought I was satanic, so, it's weird that sometimes how things are perceived, but now, since it's been about a week since everything's kind of gone down, it's been amazing how many have transitioned over, and, Asking is a great band, and I think We Are Harlot is a great band. Give them a try, and hopefully it'll work the other way too. And a lot of people that get turned on to us might want to go a little bit heavier and go back and check those records out or the new records and be like, "Wow, this is cool, man."
Yeah, I still get paid for the stuff.
He doesn't have any money.
And you're mentioning how it works the other way around because people, especially the earlier Asking Alexandria stuff, more metalcore.
Yeah.
And some of them may have initially been turned off to you, and then they come to We Are Harlot and say, "Hey, man, this guy's got some, So
This guy, this is good.
He's got
cool.
some,
He's got pretty cool.
He's got some good sensibilities there. So let me ask you this.
You're full of sensibility.
You guys have this first album, and how are you looking at it? Are you looking at it this
Like
is
this
us,
way.
or is it a step?
I usually turn it a little, like 45 degrees where I like it. It seems to look different that way.
But what is the mindset with this album?
I guess for me, I would just love for the listener to be able to get the feeling that I got when I first heard like AC/DC, when I first heard Kiss, when I first heard Van Halen, when I first heard Pantera, when I first heard Slayer, these bands, when I heard that, man, I mean, when I first listened to Ozzy, first track I heard was I Don't Know, and I just replayed it. I never even got to Crazy Train, the second song on the disc, because I played that 300 times in a row. You know what I mean? So if I can give that feeling to somebody else somewhere in the world from, this record, I feel accomplished and complete.
I just want to take all your money.
Because we make so much. We make about 35 cents off each record, so it's awesome.
I'm just really excited to be putting out some good old rock and roll in the world.
I think a lot of people don't understand that that's the music that he loves.
I grew up on the blues and rock and roll, and I'm just, it's finally a part of my life where I can do what's been inside of me this whole time and finally put it out. It's an exciting turning point for me, in which I get to sit back and listen to my own albums 30, 40 times a day.
Yeah,
which I do anytime I'm masturbating or having sex. My album
with his own tears, but. Which, like when I first met him, I was like, here's this guy that's got this, this amazing growl and this, this voice, right? And then I'd wake up in the morning, he's got, John Mayer on and stuff. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then he's got, Aerosmith on and stuff. And then I didn't know because, I just met the dude 3 days ago and here I am, we're living together. And he's like, oh, dude, this is the music I like. And I'm like, right on. And then when we sat down and played, we were like singing Bob Seger and singing like, Rod Stewart and stuff. I'm like, this dude, he's listened to some records. You know what I mean? You can't pull that stuff out of the hat unless you listen. And he's got gigantic ears. No, literally his ears are huge like Dumbo. But, he's got big ears, which means, he listened to the music. And anybody that listens to him on this record, can hear in all four of us that there's a lot of influences, and that shows in the music.
And I remember one of our previous chats, you said that you're a big Motley Crue fan, and now that they have finally announced that this is the
Finally, that was like
final
2 years ago.
But so, what are your thoughts on them leaving the scene, and what are you gonna miss most?
They had a great run, man.
Yeah,
That's for
it's,
sure.
It's been a long time. They deserve a break.
Danny's trying to do to us what they did in 30 years, all in 1 year. So, so if we make it 3 years, I'll be happy.
I respect the way they're doing it. It is the honest way. I mean,
and I think all four guys are going to continue making music. They
Yeah.
have kind of said, on their own and stuff, which is great.
I mean, when was Ozzy's last tour? It was like 83 or something.
93 was supposed to be the
93.
the No More Tours tour, for No More Tears.
Yeah, so it's. I mean, they've gone the really honest and respectful way about it by making it official.
Yeah, and I think it's good to go out when you can still do it. I do believe that sometimes people carry on a little bit, too long.
I can think of a couple people that should probably throw in the towel.
Yeah, and I think that that they're doing it right. I mean, I have a ton of respect for those guys. We kind of know them a little bit through different things and things like that. I have mutual friends and stuff, and they're hell dogs. They're wild cats for sure, But I think that they're doing it right, and I'm kind of excited to see what they all do individually too, musically, and different ventures. So.
So we talked about what the mindset with the album is, but what would make the album a success to you? How would you define success?
Well, it's selling well, and people coming to shows, and lots of people listening to it. I mean, the general definition of success translates over to.
But there is a sliding scale in this day and age of 2015.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, we live in this fantasy world where
He lives in it nonstop.
we expect things and believe things that we keep getting told are not real per se. But no, I mean, obviously a success would be by, I don't know, the end of the cycle playing like Madison Square Garden or something. That would be, I mean, that's where my head's at of where I want this to go. And then go in the studio and do the second album, and then hopefully maybe hit Wembley or something.
And I think that it's so important for everybody who sees this is to know, please buy the record. And it's not because we get rich off it. We're far from it. Trust me. Anybody that's in music knows this. But it does show that you can make more records, that you can make more music, and that you can play more shows.
It costs a lot of money to do make an album.
This. I mean, we could, the numbers are obviously there. But that would be the first thing to show, some that it went to the public, is a good, amount of people buying the CD. And then people coming out to the shows and do that. It happens at the festivals go over great and all that kind of stuff. But then you have, your own shows where you have bills and stuff like that. If you look at that overall around, the country, that's suffering a lot because people are just hanging out waiting for the festivals and not doing the shows so much. So, one of the things that we're going to really try to do is play as many of those shows as we can and have that personal connection with the artist. Do in-stores again. Remember when you'd go down to like Harmony House and you'd have like an in-store or something like that? Or what was it, Colony Music here, I mean, those days, I mean, I look at those pictures of like, when Destroyer, Kiss Destroyer was the whole front of it, and they're all out there like, that's so cool, man. And when I was like super little, I'd go to like, Harmony House to see like, I met Ozzy there, and Zakk Wylde picked me up over his head, and now I'm friends with Zakk. But, it was like insane to be able to do that. I want to really bring back that community of rock and roll and of metal, that whole community. We're all in this together. So, I know that, any of our friends that ever make a record, even if we don't even like the song, we immediately buy the record because it's so important to support it.
People close to you that may have had a sneak peek of the record or songs that Baz or anybody, sort of industry-wide, what is their reaction been?
We haven't had one person that said anything other than this is the greatest thing I've heard.
Amazing. Yeah, I played
in a
Sebastian
couple decades.
a lot of the tunes when we were out on tour. You know, I played guitar for him for a couple of years, so so he heard a lot of them, and
Yeah,
I
but
think
I
he
mean,
liked them.
a lot of our friends have heard the full record, and I mean, yeah, it's been the overall consensus has been this is the album that's saving rock and roll.
What's is amazing too is like I probably know like 200 people in the industry, like other bands stuff, that have the record, and it hasn't leaked. Thank you guys for not leaking our record, because that's incredible. You know, usually it always happens. So you guys are good people. Love you.
It's complex watermarking technology where they have a drone that will shoot you dead.
Yeah.
Right? We need one of those.
Now we make Bruno go rub his penis on him while they're sleeping if they
Yeah.
like it.
He's got so many diseases that no one can live through that.
Great, guys. Thanks again.
Thanks for having
Just
us,
get
brother.
a